Coming up on CHGO Cubs, presented by Toyota. The Cubs head back to Arizona. What's your biggest concern after 2 losses to the Dodgers? Plus, where does the roster go from here? And who is your Cinderella pick for the 2025 Cubs? Let the madness begin. CHGO Cubs next. Hey, Chicago, what do you say? It's the CHGO Cubs podcast presented by Toyota. And we are 2 games into the season. It is Thursday, March 20th. March Madness is also underway. Hope your teams are winning. Hope your bracket's not busted.
On the day, baby. Creighton, shout out to the Blue Jays. Doug McDermott's dad. Let's go. Let's go. 1-0 on the day. Let's go High Point. All right.
At least we're winning something because we are 0-2 after 2 games into the Major League Baseball season. Cubs don't play for another week before the games pick up for real. Again, there'll be some Cactus League games in here. Tokyo series was kind of what I thought it was going to be. My question right out of the gate, and hi to everybody in the live YouTube chat. Appreciate you joining in while we know the tournament is going on, and also everybody in podcast form listening to this later. My question is this: which part of the 2 losses, Cody, bothers or concerns you the most outside of the fact that the games counted? Because we'll get into that. I know there's a lot of people upset that the games even counted, but
yeah,
outside of that, which part of the 2 losses either bothers or concerns you or both?
I mean, a lot of the mental mistakes are certainly concerning, but I can also sit back and say, you're still technically in spring training, and you're not exactly in a rhythm with the whole traveling to Japan and all these things, right? But if there's anything that I felt like the Cubs could have controlled that I feel like has been an issue for, especially on the pitching staff over the course of the last handful of years, is the walks. So in game 1, when they walked, like 8 to 10 guys?
8.
Was it 8?
I think it was 8.
I know Shota walked 4.
It was 8 and then 2. I think they had 10 walks in 2 games.
Right. So they were better in the second game, but the first game, if you want to talk about things that looked eerily familiar, I thought the first game it highlighted that a lot more than the second game. So the walks from the pitching staff, it's not even just the starters or just the bullpen guys. It's just the entire pitching staff. This pitching staff will be successful if they can command the baseball. Specifically, I should be saying the bullpen on that, because especially the guys who throw harder than anyone in their rotation, if those guys, like a Porter Hodge, like potentially down the road Luke Little, talking about some of the other guys that we actually saw pitch. I'm blanking on a lot of those names at this current moment. But these guys need to keep runners off base via the walk. If you give up a hit, it is what it is. You give credit to the hitter. But do not help them anymore with the walks. And I feel
unless it's Ohtani.
Yeah.
I don't want you walking the guy.
They intentionally walked Ohtani in the second game, and they had a base open with 2 outs, and it was the right move. If you remember that part of the game, I thought that was the right move. So I'm just talking about in certain parts of these first 2 games, we've seen some walks that it's like, man, like you're walking the 9 hitter with Ohtani on deck,
twice.
Stuff like that. That's Ben Brown, right? Yeah. So I think especially a lot of these young arms that I think we all have some optimism for, and we want to see take a leap, take a step forward, really find a spot on the roster and a role and establish their major league careers. Those guys got to throw strikes. They just have to, and the Cubs need them to. So that's probably my biggest concern, just because we've seen a lot of that over the last handful of years. I think the upside is at a better spot comparably to the last couple of years. But if that upside is going to cash, they can't walk guys. They just can't. So.
And there's an asterisk for all of this. We understand it's just 2 games.
Yeah.
But I also understand why Cubs fans would have a little PTSD after 2 games and seeing the offense look like the offense did in those first 2 games, even though it was against the Dodgers, who probably have the best pitching in all of baseball and are clearly, I think, at another level than every other team in baseball right now. Like, there's the Dodgers and everybody else. But EvilWax 73 says, what bothers me is that we start the season behind everybody else in the standings, and I hope the Japan trip doesn't affect how the Cubs players start the season again, like when you're talking about a week from now, stateside. I agree. I'm not worried about losing 2 games. I am worried that this could potentially throw them off, as we talked with Ben Zobrist about, out of their system, out of their routine, yada, yada, yada. For me, it was the offense. It was that deja vu of, man, are they, even though we said it before the game, so it's not second guessing, are they a bat short? And there is, of course, the possibility that a lot of guys could step up and fill that void to make this a really good offense. And I still think it's a better offense than potentially it was last year just because of Kyle Tucker. But could they be a bat short? AKA Bregman at third. Well, we won't worry about that if Matt Shaw looks good. But, of course, he struggled in his first 2 games. And, again, I'm not overly shocked or worried about that. But even Craig Counsell after the game said he didn't have great at-bats.
Yeah.
He didn't have great at-bats.
He didn't.
And so it is fair to have a little concern. I'm not saying I would be worried about Matt Shaw because of who he faced. And I think you need to expect that. Ups and downs. And I think you'll have some great moments too. But I do understand if you are concerned, obviously Bregman would have been a more guaranteed known amount at third base. And I don't know if you saw this, but in the Foul Territory podcast, Bregman was on with the guys, and he said he thought he was going to the Tigers up to the very last second. And then the Red Sox came in with that last-minute offer. So that means the Cubs were, at best, third on his list. Maybe 4th on his list. So did they really factor into this decision? Doesn't sound like too much. So they put all their eggs into this Matt Shaw basket. Am I concerned about that? No, but I could see it potentially becoming a problem later down the season. It's too early for me to be concerned about it now, but could I be concerned about it in 2 months? Maybe.
Yeah, the whole Bregman thing, I'm not really surprised by that.
That Tigers even had a better, more interesting offer to him than anything the Cubs.
It was the only team that offered him a long-term deal. I think the Cubs were more in there than the Astros.
So they're third.
Yeah, I would say likely. The Cubs were probably third. That doesn't make me feel any better about the situation. I think with Bregman, yes, there was more certainty there. You got his floor was a 4-win player, right?
Yeah.
Our optimism is for Matt Shaw this year is a 3.5 win player. That would be a stellar
He exceeds
season.
Projections if he's a 4, which is the other guy's floor.
His projection on Fangraphs was around 2.5. So I could easily see him going over that, right? But I think, if he doesn't exceed projections, I still think he's at least a 2-win player. Because I think the defense is there. In 2 games, I feel good about Matt Shaw's defense. Is the arm a little concerning? I guess, just because a few of the throws so far haven't exactly been the best. But
those were I feel like they were rushed more than there just doesn't have the arm.
Right. Yeah, it's not like it's not like you need Nick Madrigal to crow hop a couple times across the diamond to make a throw, right? So I feel good with Matt Shaw defensively. 2 games against the Dodgers and that pitching staff, it's hard to have any judgment on that. It's just like every young player. You have to let them go through the adjustment of Major League Baseball. And that is why I and you basically, even though you never thought it was going to happen, thought that adding Bregman would have made a lot of sense. You could have made Shaw a super utility guy,
Well, I stand
things have
on,
passed. I've complained about it enough. I have nothing else really to say about it other than they need Matt Shaw to be a productive player in 2025.
I stand on my bragging box as to say they weren't even close. They were at best third in the list for this. So it really wasn't even ever close. If he was talking about going to the Tigers and the Red Sox, there were at least two teams ahead of it. Our boss, Jake, pointed out that the Cubs pinch hit for the cleanup man twice in this series. And that I said, well, yeah, that's sort of could be a sign that do you really have cleanup batter isn't necessarily what it used to be. A lot of times you see the best hitter 2 or 3 now.
Sometimes one.
But yeah, sometimes one.
Mookie Betts, for example.
Ohtani.
Yeah, there you go.
But it also could be a sign that, yeah, maybe they are a bat short. Now, it'll be different. Well, I think when Nico comes back, if you're looking to fix things, Nico moves into that spot. I think Shaw's moving down. I think maybe Dansby could move up if he's hitting that way. Yeah, Joey's running the 1s and 2s today.
Oh, what's up, guys? My question for you guys was, and look, we're 2 games in, right? But when we talk about Matt Shaw, is it a little bit of history repeating itself where I personally did not enjoy that Counsell threw Chris Morel into the cleanup spot so early into the year and asked so much of him? Matt Shaw in the 5-hole, when you've got Michael Busch clean up. I think there is some tinkering going on with the lineup to find that right mix. I don't think what we saw in those 2 games might be the exact lineup 1 through 9 that we're going to see moving forward.
That's an interesting thought process.
I think that's because of Nico, though, right?
Yeah.
Like PCA's even said, look, if it's me and Matt Shaw at the bottom of the lineup, I'm kind of cool with that all season, and I think that's a possibility.
Yeah. Well, you got to remember Nico will be back in the lineup, and I know John Birdie has more hits than anyone on the team right now. But
once you take Birdie out of the lineup, what's left?
But I think if you have a healthy Nico Horner, it definitely deepens the lineup a little bit. Is he a power hitter? No, but I think this conversation is more of, should the Cubs perhaps put Horner in the 2-hole, for example, to maybe put Seiya and Tucker down to have them more in a 3 or 4 spot. Now, it depends on how you view or how you think about the game today. As you said, putting your best hitters as high as you can in the lineup, right? Dansby's off to a good start in these 2 games as far as the at-bats that he's given. I don't mind if they open the year in Arizona with him in that 5-hole and keep Busch in the 4. But yeah, they're definitely a bat short. And they're going to need Matt Shaw and PCA to be productive. And they're going to need, at some point, Moises Ballesteros or Owen Casey to kind of help this offense if there's an injury, or hell, if they're just raking in AAA and the Cubs need some offensive help to just help them in some form, because they even said themselves that those guys are going to be on the team at some point this year. So I'm thinking about those guys at some point. They're going to be on this team, and wherever the Cubs are at that time, they're going to be in a position to perhaps help this team have success. Now, we don't know what they're going to do, but I do think that a lot of fans in this chat watching right now, and us 2 sitting here, and even Joey, all have a little bit of optimism about those guys. And so I just think that, yeah, they're a bat short. They could easily go out and maybe make a trade like the Padres did last year for a Luis Arias. I don't want another bat like that.
Yeah,
you got plenty of those types of bats, but like they could easily do that. They have the space. They could easily do it. And depending on where the Cubs are record-wise in May or June or whatever, whenever they think about it, that is the one pro of the fact that they're $30 million below the first-year luxury tax, is that they have flexibility to go and add someone via trade if they want to. Who that is, I don't particularly know. We know who the pitcher is. We've talked about him a little bit in Sandy Alcantara, but as far as a hitter, I don't know who's available that they should go get. So
yeah, I think if they find that need for an extra hitter, I think that unless there's an injury to one of the current guys that's on the team, Tucker or Seiya or Happ or whatever that might be, if those guys are all healthy and the team is the way it's constructed now, but they're still a bat short, then I would suggest the only way that void will be filled will be somebody else currently in the organization stepping up, whether it's Ballesteros, Alcantara, Busch having a great year, Shaw having a great year. I think it's going to have to be one of those guys. We'll talk more about it. By the way, I do have some concerns about Seiya, but I'll tell you why in just a second. Cody's going to tell us why Bet365 is the place to go today.
Oh, so especially on a day like today. Bet365 is live in Illinois, and it's tourney time, my friends. A dream where dreams do come true, especially if you're a winner like me already today. 1-0 on the day. Again.
Credit to you.
All right. And if you could sign up right now and you could still use this super boost.
I just did it.
You just did it, right? It's for the tournament. You don't want to miss it. It's boosted 1 point to be scored in the first game of the tournament on Thursday, all right, to plus 100. Max bet of $50. You place $50 on the super boost. And you win immediately. It gives you an extra $50 because that's what plus 100.
It's not guaranteed.
It doubles.
Because it's not totally impossible that it could happen, that a point never gets scored in the game. But boom, they put $100 in my account.
Basically. You're going to win. I'm telling you, you will win, all right? So
don't guarantee that. You'll owe somebody.
It's a guarantee. Now, if you're not into the tournament, they do have a great baseball promo. With Bet365 early payout offer, you're a winner if your team goes 5 runs ahead with an instant payout on straight bets and parlay selections marked as winners. Download the app and use code CHGO365 when you sign up. That one's basically, say the Cubs score 5 runs in the first.
But you don't trust their bullpen.
Yeah, but you don't trust the bullpen. There you go. You will win your bet no matter what because they will give you the win as long as you're up 5 runs to start the game. Or not, as the game goes along.
Yeah, 5-run lead.
All right, so download that Bet365 app and use code CHGO365 when you sign up. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. My friends, it must be 21 plus, or if you or someone you know has a gambling problem, crisis counseling and referral services can be assessed by calling 1-800-GAMBLER.
Yeah. Take your Bet365 app with you on your phone and head on over, watch some tourney games at Hooters. Thirsty? Head to Hooters. $6 cocktails all day, every day in March. Enjoy an Absolute, Bacardi, just a single mixed cocktail for $6 every day at Hooters. Or try Hooters' legendary margarita. So sweet, so tasty, so cheap. Yep, you guessed it. Just $6 all day, every day at Hooters. Originality isn't just one thing, it's everything. Hooters is always original. What makes it so special? Well, they care about their people. Often imitated, never duplicated. The original Hooters has been one of a kind since 1983. I love the honey tie on the wings. I specifically like the drummy. So if you're coming with me, you can have the wing part. I take the drummy part. Okay? And I also like the honey barbecue. Bingo. Cheer on your favorite teams right now from any one of their 11 Chicagoland Hooters locations. We're talking Aurora, Countryside, Downers Grove, Joliet, Lansing, Melrose Park, Oaklawn, O'Hare, Orland Park, Schaumburg, and Wells Street. You can also order online for pickup and delivery. Check them out at originalhooters.com. Okay, Seiya. Am I worried long-term about Seiya? No, I said it, and I can't even necessarily pin that he was nervous and he was playing in Japan. It just could be 2 bad games. But I will say, when Seiya's in a slump and not playing well, you see him swinging with just his arms sometimes. Like he has at bats or pitches where you're like, what was that? That looked like I used to look in Little League where I didn't know what was happening and I just reached out with my arms type of deal. You'll get those in a Seiya at bat. That alarmed me a little bit in these 2 games. I'm just hoping, all right, he can correct whatever's going on right now, and he can fix that before the games pick up again in a week. So in Seiya's case, I'm hopeful that the week off is actually a good thing.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like what I said yesterday, and this goes into why I feel like those 2 games shouldn't have counted, and it wouldn't have mattered whether it was the Cubs or not. Like, the whole travel to Japan and all of the festivities going on, it got the players out of their routine. And you could see it with a handful of Cubs players in the lineup. You're talking about him swinging the way he swung. Well, that's because there were moments in each of those at-bats where he was on a pitch, but his timing was off, and so he fouled it off instead. There were a handful of times where he got
the first debut with Yamamoto, he hit it straight back to the screen and was on it, but yeah.
Like, I'm not making an excuse. I'm just saying that that's part of what, the timing goes into connecting on those types of pitches.
Well, it could be something very small that changes and he's right back into it. That's why I said long term, I'm not worried about it. I'm just hoping whatever it is, he can fix it in the next week or get more comfortable going back to Arizona in the next week. Gary is very concerned about Justin Steele. Gary says he still looks sick and he's got to fix something mechanical. I said yesterday I'm not overly concerned about Steele,
Right.
even though we have talked about possible regression for either Shota or Steele, or maybe both potentially this season. Is it possible?
I definitely.
If he's not healthy and he was sweaty, if that was sweat and not that he was just showering before the game and wet, then I'm going to say, yeah, I'd like him to be healthy. I don't know how the flu impacts everybody. Maybe that was still a factor, or maybe it was just a factor that he missed a turn in Arizona. Then he had a bad start because he had missed a turn in Arizona, and it's possible. Then he got on a plane for 14 hours, and he's still not feeling quite right, because who would feel right after a 14-hour flight? And now your mental and body clock, everything's off. There's a lot of things. I'm not overly concerned about Justin Steele, but we'll see. If maybe we will be after another couple of starts, but I'm willing to give that a couple of starts, just like I'm willing to give Seiya some time here over the next week to try and figure it out.
I mean, I'm not worried about Steele because he's just been consistent the last 2 years. To me, like, that's all it is. Now, when you're talking about these, like, the guys who didn't play well or whatever,
Bush, Steele, Seiya, whoever you want.
While you can also say what I said about, routine and stuff like that, the Dodgers obviously didn't have any issues. It helps whenever your entire lineup is full of studs. Whatever. I don't know. I just think there needs to be a balance. Like, it's okay to be concerned, but I also think that it's too small of a sample size to just declare this guy is on a downturn.
Yes.
And my biggest thing with Steele, like I said yesterday, is the 2 homers. The guy hasn't been giving up homers for 2.5 seasons. But he gave up 2 homers yesterday. So, that's my only, if you want me to throw out a concern for Justin Steele, that's it. All right? So, and him and Shota both would have gone deeper in the game if they were,
it was a different point in the season,
Yes.
or if it wasn't maybe even this early.
Right.
Can I get a Joaquin Phoenix and Gladiator thumbs up, thumbs down on the hair? Steele's hair.
Oh, no, it's a thumbs down from me.
It looks a little Wisconsin.
That's no offense.
No offense. I love
At
Justin
least he's
Steele.
got hair, but like, hey.
Actually, I just think it's sums up Mississippi. But.
No, I mean, listen, a lot of pictures.
Him and Mark Burley were hanging out in the offseason, right? It's kind of like that vibe.
It's a starting pitcher, relief pitcher vibe. Everybody's going with the long hair. Yeah. I can't tell if it's wet or greasy or sweaty.
He had the country mullet last year, which I think was
is that all
cool.
part of the intimidation?
Yeah. And now he kind of looks like a roadie for like Deep Purple or something.
Well, again, I can't.
70s.
Can I grow a full, like Cody can grow a great beard? You've got a nice
Thank you
manicured
for
beard.
Luke, thanks.
Now, like if I grow a beard, I can grow a goatee just fine. But the rest of it, if I were a hockey player trying to grow out my playoff beard, I would look like Taves and Kane. I would have little patches here, like I'm a molting bird. And that's a little bit what Justin's beard sometimes looks like on the side. But whatever, I don't care. I like the guy, and I still like what he's going to bring to this team as either their ace or their 1 or their 2, whatever you want to call him. I think he's got the potential to still be in a Cy Young race.
Yeah. Well, you got to acknowledge, too, that every starter has bad starts. So, unfortunately, the last couple weeks for Justin Steele hasn't been exactly great when it comes to results.
Right.
But I'm not throwing in the towel right now.
On any of it, I still think they win the division, all of it. But
Mark in the chat said that Steele's only been good his All-Star season. Like, that's just objectively not true. If you just go onto Baseball Reference and read, he had nearly the same earned run average as the same earned run average, nearly the same as he did his All-Star season. Now, did he have an injury at the beginning of the year? Yeah, because he tried to field a ground ball and he pulled a hammy. All right, wasn't the arm. I'm not concerned about it.
Are you ready to call him Ryan Stressley yet? As the chat is asking, any concerns there?
I know you are. I know you're ready.
Well, any kind of nickname, I'm all for it. Except for the Luke Wittenmeyer. No offense to Gordon.
Well, yeah, you're very pessimistic. You're more pessimistic than me.
Pessimistic, but Gordon is also antagonizing. A little bit of the antagonizing. By the way, Gordon was at the Sun-Times. I saw Mark Potash is accepting a buyout and going to miss him on the Bears beat. I mean, the best questions every time are from Mark Potash. So, all right, we're going to get to what the Discord was ranting about in just a second. I did want to ask you before we do that in the next segment. Where do you any guesses on where they go with the roster if they have to replace? They have to take out 3 guys because they still need to bring in Tyone, Boyd, and Nico, and 3 guys have to come off of there. I mean, I assume Keller had made the team, but Keller's really not going to go to Iowa. And I assumed Workman had probably made the team, but Workman either is here all year or he's gone.
Goes back to Detroit.
Goes back to Detroit. I don't think they really want to do that. I would assume, is it Bruhan that's the odd man out? I sort of think so if you can get that versatility defensively, except for the outfield part, out of Workman.
What about Tyson Miller? He hadn't been good in the spring.
Okay.
They could easily cut him if they wanted
Miller,
to.
Bruhan, now you got 2 spots.
But, yeah, it's a very interesting conversation to have. I'm not sure.
I mean, some people would have said maybe it's Birdie, but then Birdie just had 3. You just had the Birdie series.
Oh, the amount of DFA birdies after one game. It was actually fueling my soul how funny it was. But anyway.
I hope Tater's not the odd man out.
I don't think Tater is going to be the odd man out because they need a backup third baseman. And even though Birdie played well yesterday, and I think that he's a fine bench player, if he is your backup to Matt Shaw at third base, and then it's like...
Is it somebody like Pearson or somebody goes to Iowa?
Yeah, I think he has options.
I don't know. It's also weird because some of those starters you may not need
like
early in the season. You have off days.
Jordan Wicks could go to Iowa.
Merriweather still have options?
I don't think so.
Yeah, right.
And I think he's pitched well enough to make the team.
He has, and the only reason why I brought it up is he walked 2 guys yesterday. I know he's been on the road to the comeback, but again, a forgotten name that I was hoping to have a bounce back year. But yeah, tough decisions to make.
It'll be interesting to see where they go with the whole roster thing. It'll be interesting to see where they go with the lineup. And we'll also talk about later, it'll be interesting to see where they go with the rotation once the season resumes on Thursday. Not totally sure about that. And we're going to get to this Discord. Cody threw out in the CHGO Diehard Discord. Do you want to rant? Anybody want to rant about these first 2 games?
It's basically like a airing of grievances. I think we should do this like after every series.
Well, we could do it after every game, most likely.
Well, everyone comes to the chat to do that. But I'm just saying, I think if we go series by series, yeah. Not only do I think the people would like that because I think it would resonate with a lot of fans, but also, we should do all the nice things for the diehards. So. I think they like the shout-outs.
I think we already do with the card alone. Just that's worth the membership in itself. All right, we'll get to that stuff in just a second. First, I want to tell you a word from our sponsors. Get more power to you during Dodge Performance Days at Ray Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram. Now's your chance to score a great deal on your next vehicle. Head to Ray CDJR on Route 12 today to choose from their huge inventory of new Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram vehicles. Right now, lease the new 2024 Dodge Charger Daytona for only $259 a month or get 0% financing for 72 months. Plus, shop over 125 vehicles they have priced under $20,000. That's unbelievable. With a friendly team of brand experts, the team at Ray CDJR is here to help you during each step of your car shopping journey. And with Ray's Price Promise, you can shop confidently with no add-ons, no hidden fees, ever. The price you see is the price you pay. It's that simple. So go check out our partner today and shop one of the Chicago area's largest inventories. Find the right new vehicle for you, then drive home happy. The team at Ray CDJR is the only one we recommend. Don't miss out on Dodge Performance Days going on all month long for low lease and financing rates on the new 2024 Dodge Charger. For more information, visit Ray CDJR today on Route 12 in Fox Lake or online, raycdjr.com. They've been serving the community since 1963.
You love that. All right. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets to find the best value. The tournament's going on right now. Illinois plays in Milwaukee tomorrow. I know there's going to be a ton of orange at the FISM Forum. I had to text my buddy who works for the Bucks and was like, hey, get a picture of all the orange. I'd like to see it. Thanks. All right. So if you want to pick up a ticket to go to that, they go by sessions, right? I won't lie. It's not exactly cheap, but you're going to get the best value at Game Time to watch more than just one game, a bunch of games. You have that. They have the rest of spring training left at Sloan Park for the Cubs if you're still out in Arizona. All right.
Waymo.
We got opening day on the way. The home opener, Friday, the first Friday 120 Club. You got to get your bleacher seat to sit with me and Braggs, and maybe I can drag Luke out there too, even in the cold. You're going to get the best deals on Game Time, all right? One of the reasons that I like it, the all-in pricing, right? You toggle that feature, it shows the total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. No one likes a bait and switch. We, at this podcast, do not like bait and switches. Game Time, they don't like bait and switches either, all right? They have the panoramic view for your seat in the app before you buy. So especially at Wrigley, you know how they have the polls. You can make sure you're not sitting behind a pole by using that feature. They have the lowest price guarantee, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Your tickets are guaranteed to be delivered on time. Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHGO for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem with code CHGO for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
Well, the Discord was a little angry about a few things.
Right? You don't say.
To be a CHGO diehard, you get to go in that Discord. A lot of Cubs fans angry after the first two games.
And I don't blame them. Not one bit.
Most seem angered by the fact that the games counted.
That's me. That's me too.
Okay? Now, I don't know if we said that before it.
Also,
but there's a lot of Cubs fans saying it after it for sure. So here we go. These are some of the ones that I found in there that you pointed out were Discord rants. JN Goalie 97 has another problem. I just don't see how, as an owner, you can look at that stadium in Japan and see all those Ohtani jerseys and not think it's in your best interest to invest that kind of money in your team. Crazy. You have two of the top three revenues in baseball in that international series, and the stark difference in star power between those two rosters is astounding. I think that's fair. Now, I will point out that the roster difference is astounding to most teams in Major League Baseball. They have found a way to say, hey, come to LA, and we've got all the cash, and we've got the sunshine, and we've got the ocean, and all of those other things. And players have bought in, rightfully so. I'll be honest with you. If somebody said to me, I'll give you $700 million and you can go play in California, I'd be there too, probably.
I live there.
Do you think there's one team in the American League that even rivals the Dodgers in terms of just the roster? American League.
You just saw the Yankees try to compete with them, and it wasn't right. The Dodgers sort of laughed about it, mocked them almost, saying it wasn't even really a series.
Well, Baltimore bounced back, and maybe some other guys like the Kobe Mayos, the
you're still,
they just gave up a court, like they'd let a Corbin Burns go away.
Yeah, they didn't add pitching, and they're in a winning window that they're not taking advantage of right now, especially with guys like Gunnar Henderson making no money right now. I would say the Red Sox are the closest team. And I think the Yankees, I've said this in our Discord a few times, I think the Yankees are going to miss the playoffs this year. Yep. After Garrett Cole got hurt and they lost Juan Soto, and their big addition to replace him was Cody Bellinger. Like, sure, the ballpark probably favors him a little bit more, but...
Didn't we just do that and miss the playoffs last year? So
they're big.
Welcome to the party, Yankees.
Aaron Judge will have to be a 10-WAR player again.
Which
and he's
we
only
getting
older.
Him too, but that's another
we should have signed him. That's a whole nother conversation. That's my hot take for 2025. as far as other teams. I think the Yankees are going to miss the playoffs.
I think that the biggest threats on paper to the Dodgers are all in the National League.
Yeah.
Whether it's the Phillies or the Braves or any other team you want to put in there, I would think that the Mets. Yeah. All right. Back in Point says, based on umpiring, are you taking the over or under on Dodgers wins at 161.5?
Who's their one loss going to be?
Just didn't like the umpiring in this series. It was not a home run.
It wasn't a homer. All right.
Gary Ross says, if we had Slaughter, we would have gone 2-0, LOL. Wonder how much the weather at Wrigley affected those games today since they were home games. I don't know how this works yet. I want to ask somebody at the Cubs, but like, how do you make up the gate and all of the other stuff from 2 games? Certainly, the Tokyo Dome, somebody gets money in Japan for all of this. Is that paid? Like, did the Cubs actually get the gate and all the beer sales and all the things that came along with that? Or are they going to have biblical losses from not having 2 home games, and will that become a problem? I don't know. I don't know the answer to it.
Well,
so
the Cubs had to have made some money doing this because
for sure. Otherwise, it's like, why would you
do it?
Here's what I don't understand about it. If it's a 2-game series, why don't you just split it 1-1? Mm-hmm. It's a home game for each of the teams.
I didn't understand that either. Why are we taking 2 games away from
whenever they were
like that?
When everybody everybody wanted a home run that wasn't a home run for the other guy.
Yeah.
Radio Maverick says, I think the concept of playing games that matter outside the U.S. is important. I think the timing is not ideal. I don't think you give Japan the best possible major league product.
That's fair.
And
it's kind of like going to London. At least you're in the middle of the year. And even though the travel and everything can like kind of mess with routine and stuff like that, we saw the Cubs go to London and play the Cardinals, and they actually, I think they should have swept the Cardinals that weekend. And the Trey Mancini error, Stroman, all that, like that was the fall of Stroman after that game. Like PTSD. I understand. I'm sorry, guys, but they actually did play well in London, and it was in the middle of the year. So
Vanilla Chill jumping on the same. Vanilla Chill says, my rant is that this is ridiculous that these games count. They are in the middle of spring training. Players have to upend their whole routine for the series that is largely performative for Major League Baseball. I get why Major League Baseball is doing it. I don't think it's a bad thing to get more involved in the Japan market, but it's just ridiculous that the games count. And I'd be saying this even if the Cubs won these games. I don't know if I believe that part, Vanilla Chill, but I hear you.
Back to the London thing, by that time, all the pitchers are stretched out. There's no like, only Shota and Steele can make 70 pitches. Now, I don't know how much different the game goes if those guys are able to go deeper, especially Shota since he was a lot better. But Council had to manage the game differently. He had to because the guys, especially in the on the pitching staff, weren't ramped all the way up. It doesn't matter how early you show up to spring training. You still have to pitch in games. They didn't pitch in games until, mid-February. And it simply takes time. They're also looking out for injury as well because injuries and pitchers have gone up in such a crazy mark now.
This is the weird part. This week off is the weird part. It's necessary because of the stress they just put their bodies and their routine and all that stuff into going 14 hours away, getting your body clock thrown off and coming back. That's the weird part of it. And there is no perfect, unfortunately, if you're going to do this, there's no perfect time to do it. There just isn't. Like it's 14 hours away. It's not like you're saying they're just going 5 hours away or playing the game in Hawaii or something. It's a long flight. Everything's different. I personally don't know if it's worth it or not, but I know it was for the people that were there. Like the fans that were there soaked it up. I think most of the players seem to think it was worth it. Ben Zobrist wasn't so sure about the positives for it as a player, but boy, the players all seem to have a great time when they were there because you're not going to take that trip. They can all afford to go do it in the offseason. Don't get me wrong, but they're not going to do it all with their teammates.
Yeah.
They're not going to do it as a group.
Can I be Little League parent for a second and just throw some credit out that no one got hurt?
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, we would be what would we be saying
Mookie Betts
if
got
Justin
the flu.
Justin Steele blew out his hammy or Seiya got hurt sliding into second base or something along those
Remember,
lines?
What
What would
Captain
we be
Positive,
saying?
Joey.
Remember-
That's what I said. At least Steele didn't get hurt.
Remember the World Baseball Classic when Edwin Diaz got hurt? Yeah.
100%. How'd that feel, Mets fans?
Well, they were very upset.
Yes.
And then it started this whole controversy about how or debate on whether if the World Baseball Classic is good or not. And then that went down a whole rabbit hole of discourse that I'm just going to continue to avoid.
And Gary's asking about the All-Star. I don't think you can do it during the All-Star game. I don't think any team would want to do it then. The season already has taxed your players. If anything, you want them to rest there. The last thing you want to do is send them over there for 14 hours. Guys would be mad about not going to the All-Star game versus going to Japan. How can you have an All-Star game back in the U.S. without Ohtani, without Yamamoto, without all these players that are supposedly going to be featured in this?
To me, it's if you were to try and do it, the series would have to be the weekend going into the All-Star game. So that way when it's done, you can come home.
Boy,
and
I think teams
and
would
listen,
fight
guys are skipping the All-Star game all the time.
Yeah, but if they are, they're going somewhere where they can relax and
It's got to be collectively.
let their
bodied.
bodies,
Yeah.
They're going somewhere where they want their bodies to rejuvenate, not going somewhere where their body clock's thrown off and they're all out of whack when they get home.
I'm saying going in.
Yeah,
like,
no, I know.
I'm talking about where you're going into the weekend right before the All-Star break. So it's like you go do the series, and then once that series is over and you come back, like the All-Star break starts. And the only thing there that would kind of suck is if whatever teams are there, how many All-Stars do you got? And if they want to participate in that or not. And if they don't, then they can opt out and someone else can take the spot. They still get All-Star put on their baseball reference page. You know what I mean? Like, to me, like if they were going to do it around the All-Star break, that would be the only way. Because what you're saying about how the clock changed and all these things, it will be fine once you get back. They literally left the after the game.
It'll never happen. It'll never happen. The commissioner also doesn't want to diminish the All-Star game, which is supposed to be the Midsummer Classic where you're featuring all your star players. Yeah. But some of them would be out in Japan, and those games count, and the All-Star game doesn't. I don't know.
Well, there's a couple days before.
I know. I don't know. I'll be shocked if a team ever agrees to that or if they go that way. DFW Susie says, upon reflection, I really didn't enjoy this series as a fan.
That's the PG version.
Yeah, and then later she says, the stutter start to the season is the worst part. Opening day just hits different when it's a week before everybody else at 5 a.m. In fact, it sucked for everybody who isn't in Japan to watch it live. I get that it means that it's meant to grow the game and see all the pro arguments in that aspect, but these are players, not politicians or diplomats. Their job is baseball during the season. Off season, let the kissing hands and shaking babies happen. I don't think you're ever supposed to shake a baby. I know she was
shaking hands.
I know she was joking.
PSA from
she was joking, but I'm pretty sure you're not supposed to shake a baby.
She did the opposite on purpose.
Yes, she did.
Yeah, I mean, I wish there was a way that they could just do it once the season is over, like in the middle of December or something. Like if two teams or whatever, it's impossible. I wish there was a way, but it's impossible.
There is no perfect answer to it. That's just what I'm.
Just like two random games that go and promote the game. And
you know what my biggest, based on what Susie's saying, that these are players, not politicians or diplomats. My biggest complaint, if I'm a player and I got back and it threw off my whole season, that's what I'm worried about for a Cubs player. Like, man, I don't want somebody out of the whack going into the season now. Everything's already goofed up. My biggest problem with it is Major League Baseball does such a miserable job of promoting its star players in the first place. Mike Trout, in any other sport, even if he was playing with the Angels, would be just this global superstar, but because he's quiet and he played for the Angels, it's like, did he exist in baseball history? Right? And now you have, they don't do a great job. If you're trying to tell somebody how great Mookie Betts is, how many people in America really know how great Mookie Betts is? Well, they do a terrible job of promoting their players. So if that's true, then why are you going to force them to try and be this diplomat and selling your brand at the expense of them going into the season. That's the hard part about it. Like, you never ask them to do anything. You never want to promote them at all. And now the one time you're going to promote them, it's going to be at their expense.
Yeah. I think the part that also just really sucks is that because you play every single day, there's no part of the schedule in season where you can, like, you know, do it in a more normal pace.
Yeah.
You know?
Japan's hard too because, I mean, we know. Did everybody enjoy getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning to watch the games? No, it was the worst part about it.
Yeah, for sure. But it was
Even
definitely
if you're normally getting up at that time.
The whole point of the Tokyo series is to grow the brand in Japan. They did not care about people in America when it came to that.
Or their players.
They didn't care about anyone watching in America.
It's about this.
But
that's why I don't get why they don't promote their players better.
All financial proceeds of these two games go to the particular team's payroll. So therefore, the Cubs got $10 million. If they got $10 million more of the luxury tax, would Cubs fans feel differently about going over to Tokyo?
Oh.
Gary in the chat.
Like the Dodgers needed.
Gary in the chat says, breaking news, Eli Morgan and Jordan Wicks option to AAA. Is that
Eli Morgan? I wasn't sure. That's another guy I wasn't sure about.
I thought he looked pretty good in the first game. Did he pitch? He has options, and that's probably why he's going. I'm going to confirm this on the internet.
All right, we'll get to the Cinderella conversation and the breaking news from newsbreaker Gary Ross here on the CHGO Cubs podcast. But first, Cody's going to tell us about one of our great sponsors named Lucy.
Lucy Nicotine. I asked this question the last few times we've done this one. Guys, what is your favorite flavor?
Every flavor.
Absolutely. Luke?
Yes.
Yes, that's right. Every flavor is your favorite flavor for Lucy, all right? They have different strengths you can use, so depending on, your tolerance, Lucy's got you covered, all right? Level up your nicotine routine with Lucy. Go to lucy.co/CHGO and use promo code CHGO2025 to get 20% off your first order. Lucy has a 30-day refund policy if you change your mind. So if you're not a fan, there's no sweat. You can just send it back. You get your money back and everything. All right. So again, that's lucy.co. Use code CHGO2025 to get 20% off your first order. All right. Here's the fine print, Luke. Listen up.
I'm paying attention.
Lucy products are only for adults of legal age, and every order is age verified. Warning: this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical.
Are you having a tough time tracking your money? Could be all the online orders arriving at the door, maybe the food delivery or something else. Finances can be messy and confusing, but Monarch Money acts like your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control so you can stop earning and start growing. It's more than your average budgeting app. Monarch Money is a complete financial command center for your accounts, your investments, and your goals. Track your spending, savings, and investments effortlessly so you can focus on what matters most, making your biggest life goals a reality. It's been named the Wall Street Journal's best budgeting app in 2025. Get control of your overall finances with Monarch Money. Use the code CHGO at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with the code CHGO. Newsbreaker Gary Ross telling us that Eli Morgan and Jordan Wicks have been sent to AAA.
And it has been confirmed by our guy, Jared Willis. So,
boom. Factual.
Thoughts?
I don't think the Wicks thing is
it's not
shocking.
Surprising. Didn't I say that at the beginning?
Well, once we saw Ben Brown being stretched out, I assume Ben Brown's going to be the fifth starter.
Uh-huh.
Don't you?
After this, yeah.
So then I assumed that there wasn't going to be a spot, most likely, for Jordan Wicks right now.
But that doesn't mean he won't be up very quickly. I think if there's an injury, in the rotation especially,
we will see Jordan Wicks this season.
He will be the first one up. All right. And we know that they're going to use Colin Ray as kind of like a piggyback / like long reliever who can also start some games too. That's what he did in Milwaukee. That's what he'll do with the Cubs. Eli Morgan now, I am a little surprised that he's going to Iowa, but I am assuming is
one of the first free agent moves they made, right?
Yeah. Well, no, it was a trade. What was your favorite part of the Alfonso Rosario era?
That's right.
Yeah. Who no one knew until the day that he was actually traded who he was. But,
Craig Brindle, did he have a good comment I think we wanted to read? Looked like
up.
That was one. Craig Brindle.
I
There it is.
agree with-
I agree with Luke
same.
Stuckey for
Good
commissioner.
comment.
That is we should star that one.
Stop pandering to Luke.
We should
Stop-
probably
don't-
star that comment.
Stop pandering
Flip
to
it
him.
and post it. Put that one on the internet. Well, this sort of leads us to the Jordan Wicks thing, right? Jordan Wicks, Eli Morgan. March Madness is underway. We heard everybody screaming and yelling in there. I don't know who won the games while we've been going on.
Purdue unfortunately won, so I'm
Purdue won.
now 1-1.
You're 1-1. I thought Braggs was awfully quiet. I assumed they won because if it wasn't, Braggs would have blown out another knee.
High Point did not cover.
Did not cover. So with March Madness going on, I thought, all right, let's just do a little, cross-pollinating here. Cinderella on the 2025 Cubs. Right now everybody's looking for a 12 seed in their bracket to go, or a 13 seeder. Did you pick an 11 or the 12-5 matchup's always a good one, right? Mm-hmm. But more and more, we've even seen 16s over 1s. So I ask, who's the Cinderella seed on this Cubs team that you think could make a run this year and really make an exciting play for the Cubs this year, right? Like, who's going to be exciting that right now might be seeded a little bit higher? So now the trick is, who would you actually seed higher? When I was first putting some names together, Cody said you can't put Matt Shaw there. He'd be too high of a seed. Okay, we took him out.
He would be.
Gage Workman. I thought he was making the team. I guess I'm not 100% that he's making the team. Gage Workman, if he's on the team, is he like a 12 seed? Okay.
I think he's lower.
Nick Weller says right there, Tater. So I think you could count Gage Workman as a very high seed, meaning Cinderella, that could have an impact on this team. Make a run, if you will.
As a real college basketball guru who has watched the tournament for years and years, not to say that you haven't, I would probably put Gage Workman as a 15. That's
Of course, I've watched the NCAA tournament.
I know
what are you
you
talking
did.
about?
You
I
also
watched Isaiah Thomas win it in the 80s.
But I'm just saying, Gage Workman right now has never made a major league at bat.
He's a high seed.
He's like a 15 seed to me.
He's practically a play-in as a Rule 5 guy.
Yeah. That doesn't mean I have hope, but it would be if he helps the Cubs win this year, not only is that, from a baseball perspective, a great scouting / development within your organization that you can celebrate, and I will undoubtedly sit here and congrats the organization on that. But I just think, if you say he's 12 seeds have upset the 5 before.
Lots of times, yeah.
Right? We haven't
super common
we
now.
haven't seen we have, but it's not an every year thing. We're not seeing 15s and 16s winning every year.
No, it happens, but it's not very often.
I feel like Luke Little is like a 12.
Luke Little, he's not fully healthy yet, not fully back, even though he's playing. He's not ramped up.
We've seen
and won't be on the opening day roster.
We've seen a lot of good. We've seen the bad with the command. But we see that there is a ceiling there that he could be a really good left-handed reliever in the bullpen if he pitches like he did before the injury last year, right?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, he still barely has any major league experience based off the injury. Hasn't pitched in the most high-leverage spots. Right? Mm-hmm. There's still a lot of questions there, but if he puts it together and becomes a focal point of the bullpen at some point this year, that's like a 12 beating a 5.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I know in here you put a 7. We probably.
Well, no, we were just throwing numbers at it. Yeah. Nick Weller says Birdie and Turner, are they 10 and 12 seeds then, right? Yeah, that's probably about right.
Yeah.
I'd say Turner might be a 10.
Yeah, if Turner...
A 9 or a 10. I don't know if he's necessarily a Cinderella, but if he made it all the way to the Final Four, 4 best offensive players on the team.
If he has a 2016 David Ross type season, except obviously the offense will be better based on who he is. But
what if he hit 15 homers?
But if you go look at David Ross's 2016 season with the Cubs and then look at the rest of his career, you can make an argument that he had one of the best years of his career in 2016. And he was, 40? So... That's all I'm saying. Like, I think expectations for Justin Turner are to do exactly what he did in the first 2 games, which was when he pinch hit, he gave a great at bat and he puts the ball in play. And so I'm hoping for anywhere between a 110 and a 120 WRC plus, and maybe he hits 10 bombs this year. That'd be sick. That'd be great for a bench player off the bench, for a bench player who's platooning with Michael Busch at first base.
Eva Wax has Daniel Palencia. That's a good one. There's a 16 seed right there.
That's a 16 seed.
You got a 16 playing a 1. Can he finally put it together, command his pitches, and become that guy? I don't know. We've seen some of it.
The gas is there. He's just got to control
Is Alcantara like at least a 13 seed? He's not on the team yet.
I was going to throw Moises Ballesteros
I
out
think
there. Maybe my
Alcantara's
Mount St. Mary's out of nowhere. Cup of coffee helps us out for like 2 weeks. I'm not saying he goes deep into the tournament, but maybe.
So he's a Sweet 16 player, maybe.
Gets through the first weekend. You play him for about 10 days.
He wins 2 games and he helps out enough. But as
sounds like
a 14 or a 13 seed.
That sounds like an 11 seed because all the first 4-ins are 11 seeds.
Yeah, he's
outside of the 16
11
seed.
seed.
But he's a high prospect, so I wouldn't put him as a 16.
Here's Gary's thinking out of the box. Sandy Alcantara being traded to the Cubs would be a great 13 seed. Because first of all, it's got to happen.
Right, yeah, it's got to happen, and most fans probably don't believe it.
And they'd have to
happen.
pay him, too. Oh, heavens.
So then does that make Vlad Guerrero trade a 16 seed?
Extending Kyle Tucker 16. Yeah,
that's our Bryant.
Trading for Ohtani is the play-in game. That's now the play-in game.
Florida Atlantic.
Actually, trading for Ohtani, you're just playing in the NIT.
Trading for Ohtani would be like the 16 seed getting to the championship game.
Yeah.
Right?
That or you're in the NIT.
Who else is on that list if we're talking about Cinderellas? Can you consider Porter Hodge?
Yeah, Porter Hodge. He might be the highest.
Is he like a 10 or a 9? Like he's almost a favorite?
I think he's a 9 because he actually had real success last year. But he needs to do it for an entire year. And obviously command can be a problem with him too.
It's a real Creighton. That's a Creighton
he's
style, right?
He's legitimately being relied upon to be a high leverage arm going into the season. So yeah, I mean, you maybe even make an argument he could be a higher seed, but 9 feels fair.
Cody, can I put you on the spot? Give me a Cubs player comp for your Illini team.
Oh, wow, that's good.
So Illinois
high expectations, but have not delivered.
This year's team is so Jekyll and Hyde. Like they'll beat Oregon by 90, but then lose to Nebraska.
But hasn't delivered.
They're very talented, but they are just so inconsistent and young. So it sounds like
talented and young.
Matt Shaw, because Matt Shaw has a high ceiling. Yeah. High ceiling of being a really good player, going to be in the NL Rookie of the Year chase.
But 2 games in, he hasn't delivered.
Yeah.
And not the ceiling of PCA.
It's not even like 2 games in, he hasn't delivered. It's more of like, we just don't know what he will do.
And it's not super likely that he's going all the way to the top.
Yeah. I don't think Illinois is going to win the tournament.
He could give us some really good moments.
Yeah.
Or he could have a rough rookie year.
Yeah. But if you're coached by Brad Underwood, you might be able
Miguel
to go
Amaya
further.
Is a good one too. once top prospect, right? Now still waiting to see, but he's got some. I kind of like the Matt Shaw comparison. Is Horton on that list?
Yeah,
he's got to be. Like
he's probably like he's a good 12.
What about this got started with the Wicks move to AAA. Would Wicks and Ben Brown be like an 8-9 matchup right now?
I guess, yeah.
Right?
They're like neck and neck with each other.
Brown is the 8 and Wicks is down in Iowa as the 9, but could I see Jordan Wicks working his way back and becoming a solid piece of the rotation? I absolutely could.
Yeah. I think Horton is a really solid 12. A guy who can make some noise this year.
Colin Ray versus Cade Horton. That's a tough matchup in the first round. I don't know where you go.
Cade Horton plays with pace. Colin Ray, just the half court. Just runs the half court offense.
Who are the top 4 seeds for the Cubs?
Tucker, Shota,
Shota, Steele, and Seiya Dansby?
Seiya or Hap, maybe. Yeah. Maybe Dansby.
Hap feels like a strong 4.
Yeah.
That's a good 4.
Yeah.
Interesting.
All of this is subjective, and it's really hard to explain. So we're just trying to have fun. Don't yell at us.
I think this is a question that we can take with us into the weekend because I'm not sure it's going to necessarily be answered, although it might be by Craig Counsell as they get ready here in Arizona. So before we go, think about this. Who's going to start when they play Thursday against Arizona and it counts again? Like, what are they going to do with the rotation? I haven't heard an answer yet. Are we going to see Steele and Shota each have 2 starts before anybody else has a start?
I think that they should. I mean,
just give them the extra starts because they're that much better. Or will you see Tyone start that first game against Arizona?
I would expect that we'll see Shota against Burns or Gallen. That's what I would expect. Now, what? Shota pitched Tuesday? So he could certainly pitch Saturday, right? Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Okay, Sunday. He could pitch Sunday, and he could pitch in game 2 against Arizona. So maybe not both, but one of them. Or
I'll be interested to see if that's the way they go. I mean, it's just such an odd situation. And at the same time, you're always trying to make sure you want those guys to pitch more than your other starters, but you don't want to also have them so many innings that they're not, if you can get to the postseason, those are also the 2 guys you want super fresh at the end. So that's the argument for, okay, they pitch their game, now have them do their side deals if they don't think that will throw them off, and you start to spread it out to a bigger rotation because they have off days. The rotation use, Craig Counsell is going to earn some of that money early in the season with how he deploys his pitching staff because it's not an easy answer, I don't think.
Yeah. It just depends on how they want to utilize Shota and Steele, once they're 5 days apart, right? From their start. So I just think, specifically for Steele, it's a 4-game series. So as long as they both pitch in the series, it's not a big deal if one of them doesn't pitch the first game. But I do think it's important for both of them to pitch in that series. You don't want to get off to, you'd like to be above 500 after the Arizona series, but at the very least, right at 500. I know we're like going wins and losses like already but you lost 2 of the Dodgers. You don't want to be 0-6 after playing Arizona, and I don't think they will. I think they will compete in that series against Arizona. But the point is that they need Shota and Steele to pitch in those in the 4-game series. I believe it's a 4-gamer.
Right. And Gary's pointed out it's not this Thursday, it's the 27th, correct? Yeah. So it's like 10 days. Anyways, we are back on Monday at 1:30. Corey and Brendan will have a 1:30 podcast for you tomorrow, and we'll get busy. We'll get busy. We'll have lots of stuff to talk about. We'll see if some of these things are answered over the weekend.
And we'll do our season preview next week.
Season preview's coming.
Bold predictions.
Bold predictions podcast is coming.
Which we always do at the very beginning of the year, but now it's like we have an idea of what the roster will be like. It's like our New Year's resolutions.
Yeah,
but
we'll make our picks for
it's like
World Series champ. All of that stuff's coming up.
Never forget that I think, wasn't it me and you who had Chris Sale winning Cy Young last year?
I think that is correct. If not, I'm going to say yes, I did.
I know I did.
And once again, of course, I picked 83 2 years in a row. God. Don't let the facts get in
You
the
did
way
not
of a good
pick
start.
it 2 years in a row.
2 years ago, I did pick
2 years
83.
ago, you did.
Last
but
year,
not
I
2
was
years in a
going
row.
to, but I didn't. I got talked out of it. The only thing I got right last year was the Bellinger deal, which Gary also grabbed some credit for, even though I didn't know he had said it, but he did say it. So
yeah.
And he did break news for us today on the podcast. So
Shout out to Gary. Thank you for making me go look at my iPad.
And frankly, the Hoosiers should have been in this tournament instead of North Carolina. Somebody should have been in instead of North Carolina. I'll watch them now win.
Under not being talked about, Xavier, 1 quad win, just like UNC. So I'm just saying.
Well, let's hope they don't have 2.
Yeah, Illinois better win tomorrow.
real soon.
If I'm not here on Monday, it's because I threw myself in the lake because Illinois lost to an 11 seed.
Oh, the lake jumper. He's been doing that for years. Thanks for checking out the CHGO Cubs podcast presented by Toyota. We're back on Monday. Corey and Brendan at 1:30 tomorrow. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening, and fly the W.
We all silly like the mayor.